lives. The time, you know, there's what? It is the greatest theft in the history of mankind.
No doubt, man. I think one of the elements on top of that is that in order for them to be able to justify that, they have to increasingly use deception and coercion as a way to
Yeah,
justify that theft. Um,
absolutely, yes. And if you think about how the world, I mean, if you look around, I mean, it doesn't need to be something really, really deep, but I guess, I mean, at the end of the day, each country, they are living the same situation right now, I think, and you see that the freedom that you had before, it's not there anymore. Now, people like to blame it on the pandemic, but I do think that one way or the other, pandemic was just a catalyst, and we were on the path, no matter what, no matter whatever pandemic we eventually had to face, there was a process in place where this, you know, this trend of decentralization were really were really going out of the roof, and it's something that somehow when I think about that, it's kind of scary because basically right now you see that the individual it's kind of worthless, you know. It's all government. The government right now is expanding in every single aspect of life for the individual. And I think that it's kind of a balance. The more the government is present, the less the individual has freedom. So on one side, it's like when you think about the internet companies like the Facebooks, the Googles, whatever. It's like we're gonna take care of it. Just give us the permission. Just give up your privacy, and we're gonna take care of the rest. And it's kind of the same path with governments. It's like give up your freedom, and we're gonna take care of the rest. But
yeah, and what's so interesting about that is that you can objectively look at history and realize that that is a bad idea historically, right? I mean, every
yeah,
culture
it
who's
never,
done that has learned the hard way that that's not a good idea.
yes, it never ended up good.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why that idea might be more appealing to people in sort of an insidious way is that they are, sort of being victimized by the government on one hand, and then on the other hand, being offered salvation by the government from the problems that they've
Yeah,
created. And
yes.
I think
I mean,
if you have people
no,
in
I,
sort of a
I think
disorganized state like that in their lives, then they're going to not be in as logical of a place and be more likely to, make decisions based out of fear rather than sound.
absolutely. It's like I mean, I live in Europe, so I, throughout my education development, if you want, primary school, secondary school, we never really studied the history of the U.S. We were more focused on the history of Europe. But if you look at how the Nazi regime was established, it was kind of the same thing. First you find the problem. First you go there, you investigate why people are mad, and you try to come up with an answer to that. And when you got a population which is, as you said, scared, second, poor, everything you need to do in order to have their complete obedience and submission is finding something else, an external cause, an external factor, something like that, to unite them about the same flag. Then after that, when you kind of have a grip on them, you can basically turn them in whatever you want. It's like a brainwash, and it is scary as a social phenomenon because I don't think a lot of people are seeing that right now, but we are kind of living that. I mean, I am not the kind of guy who likes stay here on the internet talking about this and that, and raising flags and say, you know what, the pandemic is bullshit, the COVID is bullshit, it's all a lie. It's not really like that. But I mean, if I, and it is a big if, but if I would have been a conspiracy guy, I could say, you know what, maybe the pandemic is serious, maybe there is a real issue there, maybe it is a real virus, and it is a real problem, but considering it is, or maybe it's not, but whatever the case, doesn't it offer a good chance for someone to gather all the people and to basically tie them up under a single flag because they're scared, because they are unsure, because they don't have money, they cannot sustain themselves? I mean, it's something that really scares me to some extent. And it's it right now it is some sort of a culture of being divided. I mean, you can be Christian, and you can be Islamic, you can be pro-vax, you can be no-vax, you can be, a pro-gay or against the gay. It, everything it's black and white. Whatever you're gonna do, it's like the social media, the mainstream media, they are all keeping up this narrative or being this way or this other way. There's no middle way. There's no gray in between the black and the white. It's very divided. And I think society is gonna suffer from it.
Yeah, uh, I gotta agree with that to a large extent. You know,
I mean,
I
I don't know how things are in the U.S. right now, but I guess it's not very different from here.
well, I think the sort of the fundamental problem is that people view the state as like a means for fixing the world's problems, you know, and I think that sort of lends itself to demonizing other people, right? Because there are people in the world who will, who are able to identify the fact that that's not true. The state's not the best vehicle to solve the world's problems, and they'll be, not aligning with that belief system, and they'll be saying, "Well, that's not accurate. That's not the right way to go."
Yeah,
And you have to demonize those people, right? I mean, those people naturally get demonized, and they become targeted, and they become scapegoats, right? Like
yeah. I mean,
the only reason
it's not,
why,
it's not like the Jews, right? You know?
yeah, in a very extreme example, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Of course, extreme. No offense to anyone. It's just
yeah,
an extreme example. Sorry.
yeah, no, but it's one of those things where, like, if you believe that the state is like the vehicle to promote the utopia in the world, then you know you're going to view um, people who don't believe that as huge obstacles who need to be suppressed, right? That they're the
Yeah,
thing that stands in the way between you and this world that you envision.
yeah,
And
absolutely. Because I mean, if you kill the shepherd, you're gonna kill the herd, right?
yeah, and then it sort of morphs into this belief, which is absurd if you say it out loud, which is that the only reason why the situation isn't better is that the state doesn't have 100% control over everything.
Not yet.
Obviously, it seems absurd. It sounds absurd to vocalize that, but this is a belief that people hold, and it's a very dangerous belief.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I it's somehow it's kind of a distorted thought that I have in mind because I've spent my whole life thinking that things are gonna be all right because I live in a country. It's not the best country in the world. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's really not the best country in the world. But again, I live in here, so I got a government. I mean, there are people for that, and they are paid to take the best decisions in my interest, right? I mean, that's how I've been educated. That's how I've been taught every single day of my life. And as fucked up as it is, uh, as I started this journey, in trading and kind of studying the financial system and whatnot, I was starting to doubt the entire knowledge that I had about, not only the financial system, but also the political system, the society, and whatever we are living on a daily basis. And it's like, those moments where you see something, it's like a click. It's like, the old debate about blue pill or the red pill. And for me, it was kind of strange because it is one of those things where when once you see that, you cannot unsee it. And it's very frustrating somehow. It's like something that stays with you. And although you try to live your life on a daily basis, you got things to do, you gotta provide for your family and all that stuff. But there is always this thought in the back of your mind, and you're not. I mean, you don't really live like everything is alright. There's always subconsciously, there's always this bug. It's like something is off. I think something is really off. You know?
Oh well, without a doubt, yeah. It's in people. I think people are sort of aware of that, but there's really they have a lot of different beliefs about what the solution to the issues that they perceive are. Right? I think you know state control is pretty popular, but there people have other beliefs. Some people. I mean, that seems to be the common one right now. I guess you could have a situation where there's like a spiritual awakening, right? Sometimes when
Yeah.
societies are under extreme pressure, they get very spiritual. Um,
Usually, yes. I mean, when you cannot find, some sort of a whatever you want to call it, a reason, uh, motivation, whatever, to hang on to in the real world, you kind of tend to gravitate around the spiritual world. Well, I'm not a spiritual person myself. I'm not religious or something. So for me, that is out of the question. I don't have that option for better or worse. So but I mean, I do get people who gravitate towards that. It's not like I think they're stupid or whatever. It's just I think it's just human nature.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's like a lot of parallels between what's happening now and like what happened in uh, Europe during the Renaissance. And for the YouTube channel logo that we created, I was thinking about what symbol do we choose for the logo, and I chose the flag of Florence, the ancient flag.
But
And,
really,
yeah, because um,
that was a period of awakening, if you want, right?
yeah, it was. And what's interesting is that it also had to do with a period of sound money introduced by the Bank of Florence. They had a lot of gold reserves, and
Uh huh.
in the in Florence, and that sort of expanded their time horizon, and but also there was also the dynamic going on there that you had the state and the church, right? Who
Yep.
during that period, the church had sort of a total control over everybody.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then you have this time period where the state and the church started fighting each other, right? They were almost equal power.
Yeah.
And that the fact that they were equal in power meant that they didn't really have total control over anybody. They were too busy vying for power. And
Absolutely.
this, period of individual freedom flourished. Um, artistic expression, innovation, scientific advancement. Uh, and I think it's interesting that, you know, that type of thing is, I believe, is happening right now. And
It could be. I mean, somehow you're kind of. I mean, if you want to be optimistic, yes, I think you we could be on the verge of seeing something like that. I mean, people awakening, people, you know, stopping, stopping believe in this fairy tale about, the government will provide for you. You don't need to be worried about anything. There will always be someone who take care of the business. Yeah. Maybe it's not gonna be like in Florence in that period, but somehow, maybe in different ways, but it could be something like that. And I guess, we have we have been, I think, through a period where the world is, yeah, we're going toward a globalization, but at the same time a centralization of whatever powers, influences, you name it. And now maybe people that are kind of not all of them, but for now it's just a niche, but it's some sort of a seed, right?
Yeah,
There are small pockets of society, and they are kind of feeling the need to get back to the individual, to decentralization, right? I'm not saying that because I like cryptos or whatever. It's just a social phenomenon. I think people kind of feel the need to get back not to the whole, but to the individual. So not to the collectiveness, but to the individual. And it could be a driving force of the next 20, 30 years of development in society, economy, financial system, whatever. Maybe, I mean, I'm in my 30s, right? And I guess most of you are. Maybe some one of you is even younger than that. But we could be witnessing a really shift in the global landscape. It could be something that will last for 100 years. I don't know, but it could be, right?
yeah. So we sort of talked about how like people are increasingly, moving towards the belief that total state control is um, a necessary thing to bring in a better world. Even though we just experienced the communism of the last century, which to me doesn't make any sense, but that's where we are right now. People
Yeah,
have that belief, but that total state control is, contingent on domination of the money supply. I mean, if the
yes.
state can't dominate the money supply, they can't have total control. They can't.
If
It's
you
just
if you can rule the money, you can rule everything.
exactly. And so we're traders, so obviously, we don't want to get attached to an asset, but that
Yeah,
doesn't change the fact that there is something going on in the world with Bitcoin,
absolutely.
and I think Bitcoin is sort of ushering in sort of a similar Renaissance period when you saw, the battle between the church and the state in ancient Europe. And
Yeah,
the reason why I think that is because you have a situation where the societies that don't believe in total state control are embracing Bitcoin and declaring it as legal tender. And I know we've only seen one country as of right now, but I'm sort of operating off the assumption that that is going to become a trend and that other
yeah.
countries will follow it.
I've seen. I am, if I'm not mistaken, the governor of what was that? There was a state in the U.S.
Yeah, Texas and
Texas,
Arizona. I,
Arizona. Okay,
I
that
wouldn't be
that one.
surprised if Wyoming does something similar as well. There's a
But
lot of
but
American state. Yeah,
but I was watching, and it is not like unconstitutional because you cannot create a legal tender unless the central government, the federal government, says it is.
yeah. I
I
don't
mean,
know. I'm not sure actually. I don't know.
okay, maybe okay. You know what? Because I watched that in a YouTube channel I'm following, which is kind of cool. It's all about macroeconomics, and there was this debate about these intentions to declare Bitcoin legal tender in a specific and single state, but there was all these discrepancies between what can what a state can do and what the constitutions allow the single state to do. And it was kind of funny because on one side you were seeing that by the constitution of the US. A state cannot declare what is like a tender and what not. But on the other side, it was kind of funny because